the shocking betrayal, the message that destroyed everything. You think you know the person sleeping beside you. You think 7 years of marriage means something. I thought that too, until 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, when my phone lit up with a message that shattered my entire world. Your husband just left my apartment. Same time tomorrow? M. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I looked at Nathan sleeping peacefully next to me, his chest rising and falling with the rhythm of someone without a single guilty thought. My husband. My best friend. The father of our 6-year-old daughter, Emma, the man I'd sacrificed everything for. I'd given up my career as a marketing executive when Emma was born because Nathan said his job as a financial consultant required flexibility. I'd moved across the country away from my family because his big opportunity was in New York. I'd become the perfect corporate wife, hosting dinner parties for his colleagues, making sure his life ran smoothly. And he was cheating on me. The discovery. I didn't sleep that night. While Nathan snored beside me, I went through his phone with trembling fingers. The passcode I thought he'd changed months ago? Still our anniversary date. That should have been my first clue. Cheaters aren't that creative. What I found made my stomach turn. Messages with M going back 8 months. Hotels. Restaurants I'd never been to. Intimate photos. But it wasn't just the affair that destroyed me. It was the words. My wife is so boring now. All she talks about is Emma and household stuff. I feel trapped. I married too young. You make me feel alive again. I locked myself in the bathroom and threw up until there was nothing left. Then I washed my face, looked at the hollow-eyed woman in the mirror, and made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. I was going to destroy him, playing the perfect wife. The next morning, I woke Nathan with coffee and a smile. He looked surprised. We'd been distant for months, though now I understood why. "What's the occasion?" he asked, suspicious. "No occasion. I just realized I've been neglecting you." I kissed his cheek, tasting the lie on my own lips. "I want us to be better." Relief flooded his face. Guilt, too, but not enough to confess. Never enough for that. "That's great, babe. I've been worried about us." He pulled me close, and I let him, even as my skin crawled. I love you too," I whispered, and began planning his downfall. Meeting Marcus. I hired a private investigator that afternoon. By evening, I had a name. Marcus Webb, Nathan's colleague from the firm. Not some random woman, Marcus. My husband was having an affair with a man. The revelation hit differently than I expected. This wasn't about me not being enough. This was Nathan living a lie, using me as his cover, stealing years of my life for his convenience. I thought about Emma, about the life insurance policy Nathan had taken out last year, about the joint accounts he'd insisted on. Pieces started clicking into place, pieces of a puzzle I'd been too trusting to see. The confrontation I didn't have. Nathan came home at 7 p.m., claiming he'd been at the gym. His hair was wet from a shower, but I'd tracked his location. He'd been at Marcus's apartment in Soho. "How was your workout?" I asked sweetly, serving dinner. "Brutal. I'm exhausted." He kissed Emma's head, played the devoted father. "How are my girls?" "Perfect," I said, watching him eat the pasta I'd made, wondering how I'd ever loved this stranger. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something." He looked up, worried. "I've been thinking about going back to work. Part-time, maybe. Emma's in school now, and I miss using my brain." I smiled. What do you think? The relief on his face was almost comical. That's a great idea, babe. You should totally do that. He thought I was distracted, occupied. He thought he was safe. He had no idea I'd already contacted my old boss, who'd been trying to recruit me back for 2 years. He had no idea I'd opened a separate bank account that morning. He had no idea I'd photographed every document in his home office, including the ones about the mysterious investments he'd been making. Nathan thought he was the one with secrets. But I was about to become his worst nightmare. The plan takes shape. That night, after Nathan fell asleep, I sat in Emma's room watching her dream. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. She deserved better than a father who lied, better than parents who lived a fiction. I opened my laptop and began drafting my revenge. Not loud, not messy, not the kind that ends up in divorce court with lawyers and settlements. No, I was going to take everything from him the way he'd taken everything from me. His career, his reputation, his freedom, and he'd never see it coming. My phone buzzed. Another message from the private investigator. Got something big. Call me. I stepped into the hallway and dialed, my heart pounding. Mrs. Patterson, he said, his voice grave. Your husband isn't just having an affair. He and Marcus have been embezzling from their firm. We're talking millions. I smiled in the darkness of my hallway. Perfect. Heartbreak A&D revenge. The woman who knew too much. 24 hours after learning my husband was a cheating embezzler, I sat across from David Chen, the private investigator who just handed me a folder thick enough to send Nathan to prison for 20 years. Are you sure about this? David asked, studying my face. Once you go down this road, Mrs. Patterson, there's no turning back. I opened the folder. Bank statements, wire transfers, falsified documents. Nathan and Marcus had been siphoning money from their firm's client accounts for 18 months, hiding it in offshore accounts under shell companies. I'm sure, I said, my voice steady. Tell me everything. The truth unravels. What David revealed made my blood run cold. Nathan hadn't just been stealing from his firm, he'd been stealing from me. The investments he'd made with my inheritance from my grandmother? Gone, transferred to accounts I couldn't access. The college fund we'd set up for Emma? Drained 3 months ago. He's been planning to disappear, David explained. He and Marcus have tickets to Singapore for next month. One way. My hands clenched around the folder. What about Emma? There's no ticket for her. Or for you. The room tilted. Nathan wasn't just leaving me. He was abandoning our daughter. He was going to vanish with his lover and our money, leaving us with nothing but debt and questions. That's when the heartbreak finally hit. Not for losing him, but for the years I'd wasted on someone capable of this. I wiped my eyes and looked at David. I need you to do something for me. Playing the long game. The next 2 weeks were the performance of my life. I smiled at Nathan every morning. I kissed him goodbye. I asked about his day. I even initiated intimacy, watching him fumble with guilt and desire, knowing every touch was a lie. But while I played the devoted wife, I was building my case. I met with Rachel Martinez, a lawyer who specialized in white-collar crime. She was sharp, hungry, and had a personal grudge against Nathan's firm after they tried to poach her biggest client. This is gold, Rachel said, reviewing the evidence. But if you just turn him in, he might cut a deal. He might walk away with minimal jail time. That's not good enough, I said. I want him to lose everything. Rachel smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then we need to be strategic, the dinner party. I convinced Nathan to host a dinner party, his colleagues from the firm, including his boss, Gerald Hoffman, and of course, Marcus. Nathan was hesitant at first, but I played it perfectly. "You've been so stressed lately," I said, touching his face with a tenderness I no longer felt. "Let's do something fun. Like old times. I miss our parties." He agreed, probably relieved I seemed oblivious and compliant. The night of the party, I wore the red dress Nathan loved. I prepared his favorite dishes. I was the perfect hostess, charming and gracious, making sure everyone's glass stayed full. Marcus arrived with his girlfriend, a woman named Ashley, who clearly had no idea she was a prop. I watched them together, Marcus touching her waist for show, while his eyes kept finding Nathan across the room. "Your home is beautiful," Ashley said to me, genuine warmth in her voice. "Thank you," I replied, feeling a pang of sympathy for her. She was another victim in this game. "Nathan and I have built a good life here." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "The seed is planted." After dinner, I cornered Gerald Hoffman in the study where Nathan kept his whiskey collection. "Can I ask you something confidential?" I said, lowering my voice. "I'm worried about Nathan." Gerald's attention sharpened. "Worried how?" "He's been acting strange. Secretive. I found some financial documents I didn't understand. Accounts I've never heard of. I'm probably being paranoid, but..." I let my voice trail off, vulnerable and concerned. Gerald's expression changed. "What kind of accounts?" "I don't know. I don't want to overstep, but as his wife, I feel like I should understand our finances." I pulled out my phone, showing him photos I'd accidentally taken of some of Nathan's documents, carefully selected to raise questions without revealing too much. Gerald studied the images, his jaw tightening. "Mrs. Patterson, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. These account numbers, I'm going to need to look into this. Please don't tell Nathan I said anything," I pleaded. "I don't want him to think I don't trust him." "Of course," Gerald said, but his mind was already elsewhere. The audit would begin Monday morning. Nathan starts to panic. 3 days later, Nathan came home ashen-faced. "The firm is conducting an internal audit," he said, loosening his tie with shaking hands. "Random spot check. Nothing to worry about." "That sounds stressful," I said, setting down Emma's homework. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine." But his eyes told a different story. He disappeared into his office, and I heard him on the phone with Marcus, voices low and urgent. I smiled and returned to helping Emma with her math problems. The trap tightens. Over the next week, I watched Nathan unravel. He stopped sleeping. He snapped at Emma. He spent hours in his office, scrambling to cover his tracks. Marcus called the house twice, panicked. I took messages with perfect innocence. "Nathan seems really stressed," I mentioned to his mother during our weekly call, making sure I sounded worried. "I'm concerned about his health." "He works too hard," she said, protective of her golden boy. "You need to take better care of him." I bit my tongue and promised I would. The confrontation I controlled. Friday night, Nathan came home early. He looked destroyed, tie gone, shirt wrinkled, eyes wild. "We need to talk," he said. My heart raced, but I kept my face concerned. "What's wrong?" "The audit found some irregularities. They're asking questions I can't answer." He ran his hands through his hair. "I might lose my job. Oh my God." I sat down, the perfect picture of a shocked wife. "What kind of irregularities?" "It's complicated. Business stuff." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I might need to lawyer up Nathan. You're scaring me. Did you do something wrong?" "No. I mean, it's not what it looks like." He knelt in front of me, taking my hands. "I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" I looked at him, this man who'd betrayed me in every possible way, now begging for my trust so he could figure out how to escape the trap I'd built. "Of course I trust you," I whispered. You're my husband." Relief flooded his face. "Thank you. God, thank you." He pulled me into a hug, and over his shoulder, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked like a stranger, cold, calculating, powerful. I looked like someone who was winning. The final piece falls into place. That night, after Nathan finally fell into an exhausted sleep, I received an email from Rachel Martinez. Gerald Hoffman filed a formal complaint with the SEC. Federal investigation begins Monday. They'll freeze all accounts associated with the case. Your separate accounts are protected. We made sure of that. You need to file for divorce tomorrow and get Emma out of the house before this explodes. I looked at Nathan sleeping beside me one last time. 7 years of marriage, thousands of memories, most of them lies. I thought about the girl I'd been when we met, hopeful, trusting, in love. She was gone now, replaced by someone harder. Someone who'd learned that trust was a weapon people used against you. But I wasn't sad about who I'd become. I was ready. The morning everything changed. I woke Emma early Saturday morning, packing her favorite toys while she rubbed sleep from her eyes. "Where are we going, Mommy?" she asked. "On an adventure," I said, kissing her forehead. "Just you and me for a few days. Doesn't that sound fun?" She nodded, excited, trusting. I left Nathan a note on the kitchen counter, short and devastating. I know everything. About Marcus, about the money, about Singapore. The FBI knows too. You have until Monday to turn yourself in, or I release everything to the media. Don't try to contact me. My lawyer will be in touch. Olivia. I took one last look at the house I'd turned into a home, the life I'd built on foundations of sand. Then Emma and I walked out the door into whatever came next. My phone rang as we reached the car. Unknown number. I answered, and a voice I didn't recognize said words that made my blood run cold. "Mrs. Patterson?" "This is Detective Sarah Mills with the NIPD. We need to talk about your husband. He's just been reported missing, and you're the last person who saw him alive. Nathan has vanished, but is he running? Or is something more sinister at play?" The revenge just got deadly. The ultimate payback. The disappeared husband. Detective Sarah Mills sat across from me in the sterile interrogation room, her eyes sharp and assessing. Emma was with my mother, safe and confused about why Mommy had to talk to some police officers. "Let me get this straight," Detective Mills said, tapping her pen against her notepad. "You left your husband a note confessing you knew about his embezzlement and affair. And now, he's vanished. His car is still in the garage. His phone is off. His lover, Marcus Webb, claims he hasn't heard from him since yesterday." "That's correct," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "And you don't find the timing suspicious?" I met her gaze without flinching. "Detective, my husband was about to be arrested for stealing millions of dollars. He had a plane ticket to Singapore. I think it's pretty clear what happened. He ran. Without his car? Without his phone? Without accessing any of his accounts?" She leaned forward. "Mrs. Patterson, I've been doing this for 15 years. Men like your husband don't disappear without their escape plan. Something else is going on here." A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. The accusation. Over the next 48 hours, my carefully constructed revenge transformed into a nightmare. The media got wind of the story. Wealthy financial consultant vanishes after wife discovers embezzlement scheme. My face was on every news channel, and the internet had already convicted me. "She definitely killed him," the Reddit detectives proclaimed. "The note is evidence of premeditation," armchair lawyers declared. "The wife always does it. The true crime podcasts concluded. Rachel Martinez sat in my mother's living room, her expression grim. "Olivia, we have a problem. The FBI searched your house. They found something." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Nathan's blood, in the trunk of your car. Not a lot, but enough. The room spun. That's impossible." "I didn't. I know you didn't," Rachel interrupted. "But someone wants everyone to think you did." The setup. It took 3 more days to piece together what had happened. David Chen, my private investigator, worked around the clock, and what he discovered made everything click into place. Marcus Webb hadn't just been Nathan's lover and partner in crime. He'd been planning his own exit strategy, one that involved Nathan disappearing permanently and me taking the fall. "Look at this," David said, spreading documents across the table. 3 weeks ago, Marcus took out a life insurance policy on Nathan. $2 million. The beneficiary? A shell company that traces back to Marcus. "But Nathan's not dead," I said. "At least, we don't have a body." "Exactly. But if Nathan disappears and you're convicted of murder, Marcus gets everything." The offshore accounts Nathan didn't know Marcus had already moved. The insurance payout. And he walks away clean while you rot in prison. Rachel leaned back, her mind working. "Marcus planted the blood evidence. He must have access to your car." "He does," I realized, my blood running cold. "He came to our dinner party. He used our bathroom. He could have taken my car keys, made a copy." "And Nathan?" David asked quietly. "Where is he?" That was the question that kept me awake at night. Was Nathan dead? Was he being held somewhere? Or was he in on this too? Another layer of betrayal. The discovery. The break came from an unexpected source, Ashley, Marcus's fake girlfriend. She showed up at my mother's house at midnight, mascara running down her face, holding a laptop. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I swear I didn't know what he was doing." Ashley had gotten suspicious when Marcus suddenly wanted to extend their vacation indefinitely. She'd gone through his computer and found everything. The real plan, the communications, the truth. "Nathan's alive," she said, opening a video file. "But you need to see this." The video showed Nathan in what looked like a warehouse, tied to a chair, beaten and terrified. Marcus's voice came from off-camera. "Just read the script, Nathan. Tell Olivia you're sorry for everything. Make it convincing." Nathan's voice was shaking. "Olivia, I'm so sorry. For the affair, for the money, for everything. I deserve whatever happens to me. Just please, take care of Emma. Tell her I love her." The video ended with Marcus laughing. "Perfect. That'll play beautifully at the trial." My hands were shaking. "Where is he?" "I don't know," Ashley said. "But I have Marcus's schedule. He's meeting someone tomorrow night at a warehouse in Red Hook. I think he's going to finish this. The final gamble. I should have called Detective Mills. I should have handed everything over to the police and let them handle it. But I'd spent weeks being smart, being strategic, playing by rules that had been designed to protect people like Nathan and Marcus while crushing people like me. I was done playing it safe. "I'm going to that warehouse," I said. "That's insane," Rachel protested. "You'll be arrested. Or worse, if something happens to you, who'll raise Emma? If I don't go, Nathan dies and I spend the rest of my life in prison for a murder I didn't commit," I countered. "Emma loses both parents either way. This is the only chance I have to end this." David pulled out his phone. "I'm coming with you. And I'm bringing backup." The warehouse confrontation. The Red Hook warehouse was exactly the kind of place where bad things happened. Isolated, decaying, forgotten. David and I arrived an hour early, along with 2 former cops he'd hired. We set up cameras. We wired me for sound. We created escape routes. If this goes wrong, I told David, make sure Emma knows I fought for her. For us. It won't go wrong, he said, but his eyes betrayed his doubt. At 10 p.m., headlights cut through the darkness. Marcus's BMW pulled up, and he stepped out, checking his phone. 5 minutes later, another car arrived. My blood froze when I saw who emerged. Gerald Hoffman, Nathan's boss. The man I'd trusted with my suspicions. Is it done? Gerald asked Marcus. Almost, Marcus replied. The wife's about to be arrested. Once Nathan's body is found, it's over. We split everything. The offshore accounts, the insurance money, the firm's settlement fund. My mind reeled. Gerald was in on it. The whole thing had been orchestrated from the beginning. Where is he? Gerald demanded. Marcus gestured to the warehouse. Inside. I was just about to finish it. You want to watch? Make it quick. I have a flight at midnight. They walked toward the entrance, and I made my move. I stepped out of the shadows, my phone held high, recording everything. Looking for me, Marcus? Both men spun around. Marcus's face went white. Olivia, what are you doing here? Saving my life, I said. And ending yours. The truth comes out. You're wearing a wire, Gerald said, his voice deadly calm. You've been recording this. Every word I confirmed. The affair. The embezzlement. The kidnapping. The murder plot. All of it. And it's already been uploaded to the cloud and sent to Detective Mills, the FBI, and about a dozen news outlets. Marcus lunged at me, but David's backup tackled him before he got close. Gerald tried to run, but the former cops had blocked the exits. It's over, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Where's Nathan? Marcus laughed, a broken, desperate sound. You still care about him, after everything he did to you? I don't care about him, I said coldly. But my daughter deserves to know her father is alive, even if he's a criminal. Storage room, Marcus finally spat. He's in the storage room. We found Nathan exactly where Marcus said he'd be, bruised, dehydrated, terrified, but alive. When he saw me, tears streamed down his face. Olivia, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at him, this man I'd loved, this stranger who'd destroyed everything, and felt nothing but emptiness. Save it for your lawyer, I said. You're going to need one. 6 months later, the trials were a media circus. Nathan, Marcus, and Gerald all faced federal charges for embezzlement, fraud, and attempted murder. Nathan cut a deal, testifying against the others in exchange for a reduced sentence. He'd still spend 10 years in prison. Marcus and Gerald got 25 years each. The firm compensated the clients they'd stolen from, and I received a settlement that included my grandmother's inheritance and then some. I stood in my new apartment, smaller than the house, but mine, truly mine, watching Emma draw pictures at the kitchen table. She was in therapy, processing her father's absence, but she was resilient, stronger than I'd given her credit for. Mommy, she said, looking up, are you happy now? I thought about the question. I wasn't the woman I'd been a year ago, trusting, naive, willing to sacrifice everything for someone else's dream. That woman was gone, but I wasn't sure if I was happy. I was harder now, more guarded. I'd learned that love could be a lie and trust could be a weapon. I'm free, I finally said, and that's close enough. The unexpected visitor. 3 weeks later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Detective Sarah Mills standing there, off duty, holding 2 coffee cups. Mind if I come in? She asked. We sat on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life as the sun set. "I owe you an apology," Sarah said. "When this case started, I was sure you were guilty. You were too calm, too collected. I thought you were a killer." "I know," I said. "I could see it in your eyes during every interrogation. You were playing a dangerous game," she continued. "You could have been killed. You could have lost your daughter. I know that too. So why did you do it? Why not just turn everything over to us from the beginning?" I sipped my coffee, thinking about how to explain it. Because for 7 years, I let someone else control my life. I let Nathan make all the decisions while I made myself smaller and smaller to fit into his world. When I found out the truth, I realized I had 2 choices: be a victim or be a survivor. Victims wait for someone to save them. Survivors save themselves. Sarah nodded slowly. "You know what scared me most about you?" "What?" "How good you were at it. The planning, the manipulation, the long game. You have a gift for strategy." I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "That's not exactly a compliment, detective." "Actually," Sarah said, pulling out a business card, "it is. We're looking for consultants. People who understand how criminals think, who can help us build better cases. You'd be perfect." I looked at the card, then at Emma through the window, then back at Sarah. "Let me think about it," I said, but I already knew my answer. I'd spent too long being defined by someone else's choices. It was time to make my own. The final truth. That night, after Emma fell asleep, I sat at my laptop and did something I'd been avoiding for months. I opened my journal and read every entry from the past year, from the first night I discovered Nathan's betrayal to the warehouse confrontation. I told Detective Mills I had 2 choices: victim or survivor. But that was a lie. I'd had a third choice. I could have walked away, filed for divorce, reported the embezzlement, protected myself and Emma without orchestrating an elaborate revenge. But I hadn't wanted justice. I'd wanted to watch them suffer. I'd wanted to be the one who destroyed them the way they tried to destroy me. I closed the journal and looked at my reflection in the darkened window. The woman staring back at me was a stranger, beautiful, cold, dangerous. I'd gotten my revenge. I'd won, but the victory tasted like ashes, and I wondered if I'd lost something more important in the process. The part of me that believed in second chances, in forgiveness, in love, without suspicion. Emma stirred in her sleep, calling for me. I went to her, smoothing her hair, promising her everything would be okay. And maybe it would be. Maybe survivors learned to be happy again. Maybe trust could be rebuilt, or maybe revenge had a price that couldn't be paid in courtrooms and prison sentences. Maybe it cost you the person you used to be. I kissed Emma's forehead and whispered, "I love you more than anything." She smiled in her sleep, innocent and pure and untouched by the darkness I'd embraced, and I made myself a promise. I would spend the rest of my life making sure she never had to become what I'd become. A woman who knew how to destroy. A woman who'd forgotten how to heal. The story of Olivia Patterson wasn't a fairy tale. There was no happy ending, no redemption arc, no lesson about the power of forgiveness. It was just the truth. Sometimes revenge is all you have left. And sometimes that has to be enough.